Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me at the table. I'm Thomas Dodderwick, and today I have the pleasure of sitting down with Judy Held, the president of the Catholic Foundation of Eastern Montana. Judy, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
I'm excited to hear about the foundation because we see a lot of information about the foundation in the Harvest, but a lot of people don't necessarily know exactly what the Catholic Foundation of Eastern Montana is doing or what they're meant to do even. So give us a little background on what the foundation is and what it does now.
The foundation, actually, Thomas, was founded a long time ago, in 1999. And today our mission is really to help Catholics give to their favorite Catholic ministry, whether that's a parish or a school or a nonprofit like Billings Catholic Radio or St. Vincent de Paul. It's to help Catholics give to support that organization in a long-term manner so that their gifts will be helping the church forever. I actually said this morning, I was thinking that really people don't give to the foundation, they give through the foundation. They're only giving through, they give through their church because it's been almsgiving, have been a lot of the readings lately.
Sure.
And I thought, well, no one really gives alms to the Catholic Foundation of Eastern Montana, but they're giving alms to help the poor or to help the youth or to help whatever it is. And they give that either through their church on a current basis or they give that through the Catholic Foundation of Eastern Montana on a forever basis.
It's an important distinction, and I think it's a great imagery that wording is important, that the gift really isn't to the foundation. Right. How many ministries are supported through the funds held at the foundation, and how is it that the foundation isn't actually the recipient of those funds? Yeah,
that's a good question. How many are helped might be something I'm not aware of. We have endowments, though. Those endowment funds, distributions, though, could be helping several ministries at a particular church.
Sure.
But the number of permanent endowments we have is about 135. And they range, like I said a second ago, from helping a ton of parishes and nonprofits and ministries and the diocese. The chancery offices. We're all the diocese, of course, but seminary and education. There's an endowment that helps to helps the diocese pay for the costs of educating more men to become priests to serve in this diocese. So really, when someone gives to the greatest needs endowment of their favorite parish, that annual distribution could help several different ministries, if that makes sense.
It does. And what is an endowment? We hear that word, and some people who aren't associated with financial things may not understand endowments. What is one?
I just had that question yesterday from a woman who called in and wanted to know more. She was from out of state, just has a friend here and wanted to know more about what we're doing. But a foundation, I just always want to make the distinction that a foundation is an entity. It's like the organization set up to hold the endowment funds. An endowment is a permanent fund. And I can often give the example of, let's say someone has $100 and they want to give it to the church. And say they want to give it to their local Catholic church. Well, they can do a couple of things. They can either put that $100 in the offertory, and then Father and the Finance Council can spend that $100 right away on some need they have, or they can put it in the bank or in the however they invest it, and they can save it. But once they use it, they can use the whole thing, right? 100 in, 100 out, and that's needed. Or they can take that $100 and they can send it to the Catholic Foundation of Eastern Montana and say, this is for the endowment for our parish. That means that $100 will never, ever be spent. But it's going to, pooled with the other gifts given to that endowment, it's going to create a never-ending stream of income that's paid out year after year after year.
I know that you have some conversations with people about that, of current need and versus endowment. What would you say to somebody who says, well, why would I give $100 now if I know that I can continue to give through that same $100 for perpetuity? What would you say to that person?
Oh, I think we have to support our Catholic ministries. We have to make sure that all of them have the support they need to carry out their mission today. And if you endow that, it's a wonderful thing. But the impact in a given year, in the first year, is going to be less than that outright gift. So the $100 in the first instance can be spent completely if there's a current need. Like maybe a church is replacing a boiler. Well, if they endow that gift, they can't get that boiler for a long time.
Sure.
But So they want to make sure, first and foremost, that our Catholic organizations are well funded so that we can carry out the mission of Christ, right? But at the same time, for those of us who really care about the mission of Christ and the kingdom of God, we want to also be able to extend those gifts forever to help people that will come generations after us, because people before us did the same thing for us.
It's important, though, for us to stress that it's not an either or option, is it?
Oh, no.
We should be prayerfully considering both.
Yeah. In fact, I always tell folks, when I go out and do a presentation at a church or wherever they've invited me about the Catholic Foundation, I always start out by saying, this isn't an instead of, it's an and in addition to. Because the distribution that a certain Catholic ministry can get guaranteed year after year after year, that should be something that allows them to do something beyond what their normal budget is allowing them to do. Not to supplement their budget, because they can operate today on what they need. But it allows us to really do unique and wonderful things to carry out the mission of the church.
The foundation takes those disbursements every year, and they fluctuate, right, because of the markets, their investments and different things like that. Is that accurate? Or can a parish or a ministry know every year we're going to get $5,000?
It will fluctuate. It's actually how an endowment works. And some people think that an endowment, with an endowment, you just spend all the earnings. But if you actually did that, then the endowment may not grow if donations were never given. Because there's really three ways an endowment will grow. And one is through donations, of course, you and I giving to churches or whatever it is, to our endowments. And the second way is through investment returns of our entire endowment pool. And we're like a Catholic community foundation for this diocese. So we pool all those together for the maximum return. And that helps a lot of our, especially smaller parishes, smaller organizations. The third way an endowment grows, though, is how long it's been there. Because what the Catholic Foundation Board does, and we're governed by an independent volunteer board of directors that represent all ends of our diocese and various skill sets from law, legal, to accounting, to marketing, various different things that can help us grow this foundation. But what the board does every year is, it's, like you said, it's dependent upon our investments, how much is actually going to be in the endowment, because you'll have the gifts given to the endowment, and then you'll have the net gains or losses to the endowment. And the total amount of that is the balance. And the foundation distributes a percentage of that balance every year. So it's actually generally more than their earnings.
Sure.
So the remainder, when they do a percentage of that balance every year, so a church, in answer to your question, or any beneficiary, they can generally count on their distribution growing every single year.
In addition to those funds being paid out through those disbursements, the foundation also does a grant program.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that grant program?
I can, and it's directly linked to distributions, because we have a handful of endowments at the foundation that are for greatest needs of our diocese. And so instead of taking the annual distribution and just the foundation board deciding, oh, well, we think the greatest need is this or that, we opened that up. We created a grant program in 2019. So the total amount of the distributions in a given year is made available to any Catholic entity in our diocese applying for a grant. They're not big yet. They're up to $5,000 per entity, but that makes a difference, especially in a lot of small parishes.
Absolutely.
And what they're able to apply for those, and then the foundation board reviews them all, and they have to make a decision. There's so many applications, Thomas, and there's a lot of need out there.
Yeah.
But the foundation board does a really nice job. They're thoughtful. They're really trying to help. They're good people, and they make a decision every year on what they determine according to the applications are the greatest needs.
Well, and I want you to brag a little bit on, there was a question as to whether or not that program was going to continue because of some concerns this year on some of the funds because of last year. And the board insisted, no, we're going to still do this.
Yeah, that is it. The Catholic Foundation Board, they, again, what I said a second ago, that our mission is not to keep all those funds, it's to disperse as much as we can. So whether that's dispersing to the specific entity that's getting the endowment distribution or dispersing from our greatest needs endowment through grants, they still voted to do the maximum amount. Part of that, to be honest, is our investment advisors are top notch. And we talked to them too. And we said, do you see any reason at all why we wouldn't? Because we just want to double check. We want to give as much as we can this year, as in past years. But is there any reason not to? And they said, no. You have a strong investment policy. You're solid. We have, ours is fairly conservative because it's steady growth over forever, until Christ comes back to earth. That's what we're doing. So because of that, we've actually experienced much better. This is an odd thing to say, but we experienced a much better loss than other organizations because of how we're set up and how our investment policy works. But they said, you've had such nice gains over the last years according to your policy. This can be weathered.
Let's switch gears just a little bit and talk about you and your role with the foundation. Over the last 4 years that I've had the joy of working next to you, it is clear you are passionate about the work you're doing with the foundation. What is that passion? Where is it coming from? And what is that driving force behind that?
See, now, it's so silly. When you even say that, I start to get teary. I think if I was really going to go back far, Thomas, it would be 9 years old sitting in the fourth pew of St. Anne's in Peerless, Montana, which unfortunately is now closed. That's another thing. I would like to make sure no other parish ever closes in our diocese, but we just grow. But I remember looking up at that crucifix and just thinking, I want to work for you. I want to do whatever I can for you. And it took me a long time to get to directly work for the church. But the passion is just, I've grown up in the faith. My mom and dad, I was the youngest of 8, 9 technically, but one passed away shortly after birth. And it was a solid Catholic family. My mom was my confirmation teacher. And actually, before I met my husband, I was living out of state and came home. He was teaching in my hometown at the high school, and he was Catholic, and Mom had him roped in teaching catechism, and she wanted us to meet. So anyway, the passion for the church is that I really am in love with Christ, like every Catholic really is, and we want to make sure that everyone is able to hear the good news about salvation. And the more we can ensure that the church is around forever, both with our current giving and our future giving and our time and the efforts and things we volunteer with, the better. So in my little portion of that, the endowments, I want to help people.
Your passion and your work around finances, you kind of alluded to it earlier. A lot of people say, I don't want anything to do with it. But you approach it really as ministry, not as work.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think anyone would... No one gives charitably at all because they're getting tax benefits or income or this and that. They don't. I just talked about that because it's a extra thing. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like wise giving, right? People
Absolutely.
say that. But people give because they care about the mission of the entity they're helping, in this case, the church. And that's what I care about. I would be involved because of that 9-year-old experience. Mm-hmm. I would like to do anything. I would do any job within the Catholic Church because that's how strongly I feel about it. Mm-hmm. It is really a wonderful faith. It's changed my life. I mean, it's been there. It's been the solid thing in my entire life, and I would never leave no matter what happened. And I feel like the part of what we're doing at the Catholic Foundation is just helping people strengthen that faith through their giving and through the ministries they're helping. We're hoping to bring more people into the understanding of what Christ did for us and what we need to do in order to, live that eternal life.
If there are people out there who are watching right now who you've inspired to help you at the foundation or give to an endowment or even want to explore starting an endowment, how do they do that?
Well, they can contact me directly. I would be happy to visit with them. I could come to their location. I'd be happy to travel all over to the diocese and visit with them, or we can talk by phone or via email. And my email is Judy, Judy, @CatholicFoundationNJ MT, like Montana, Catholic Foundation, MT.org. And my phone number is 406-315-1765. We also have a pretty darn put together website. We're actually updating it right now, and I think it's helpful for people. And that website is CatholicFoundationMT.org.
Judy, I appreciate you taking time and sitting down with me today to talk about endowments and the Catholic Foundation of Eastern Montana and all the wonderful ministry you're doing through that organization.
Thomas, thank you. Thank you for this ministry, what you're doing. It's really cool. It's helping a lot of us, so thank you.